Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 15th chapter, text number 50. Praduscha karta yadidam puruhuta rupam tenesha nirvritimyava puralam drusho naha tasma idam bhagavate nama idvidhema Yonatmanam durudayo bhagavan pratitaha. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. O Lord, we therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto your eternal form as the personality of Godhead, which you have so kindly manifested before us. Your supreme eternal form cannot be seen by unfortunate, less intelligent persons, but we are so much satisfied in our mind and vision to see it. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The four sages were impersonalists in the beginning of their spiritual life, but afterwards, by the grace of their father and spiritual master, Brahma, they understood the eternal spiritual form of the Lord and felt completely satisfied. In other words, the transcendentalists who aspire to the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma are not fully satisfied and still hanker for more. Even if they are satisfied in their minds, still transcendently their eyes are not satisfied. But as soon as such persons come to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are satisfied in all respects. In other words, they become devotees and want to see the form of the Lord continually. It is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita that one who has developed transcendental love of Krishna, by smearing his eyes with the ointment of love, sees constantly the eternal form of the Lord. The particular word used in this connection, anatmanam, signifies those who have no control over the mind and senses and who therefore speculate and want to become one with the Lord. Such persons cannot have the pleasure of seeing the eternal form of the Lord. For the impersonalists and the so-called yogis, the Lord is always hidden by the curtain of Yogamaya. Bhagavad Gita says that even when Lord Krishna was seen by everyone while he was present on the surface of the earth, the impersonalists and the so-called yogis could not see him because they were devoid of devotional eyesight. The theory of the impersonalists and so-called yogis is that the Supreme Lord assumes a particular form when he comes in touch with Maya, although actually he has no form. This very conception of the impersonalists and so-called yogis checks them from seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is. The Lord therefore is always beyond the sight of such non-devotees. The four sages felt so much obliged to the Lord that they offered their respectful obeisances unto him again and again. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport.
The last verse of this chapter. The Lord made his appearance before the four Kumaras, and seeing the Lord's wonderful form, the Kumaras are offering these prayers, and this is the last verse of that prayer. So here they are saying, Praduscha karta yadidam puruhuta rupam. Praduscha karta, pradushkarana, to manifest. So, idam puruhuta rupam. His form, rupam, which is highly worshipable, his eternal form, puruhuta rupam. O greatly worshipped, puruhuta, greatly worshipped form, praduscha karta, you have manifested, you have revealed. Tena drushaha, seeing that, O Isha, O Lord, nirvritim avapuhu. Nirvritim means complete satisfaction and peace. Avapuhu means avapnoti, means to has come about. We have attained that. We were already transcendentalists. The sages were already transcendentalists, but still they were some way not very satisfied. That is why Prabhupada is saying impersonal realization and Paramatma realization are still not completely satisfying. But nirvritim avapuhu, now we are feeling that complete satisfaction. Alam drusho naha, we have seen you, and this anirvritim avapuhu has come about. Tasmaidam bhagavate nama idma idvidhema. And so, my Lord, we offer our obeisances. Nama idvidhema. We offer our obeisances unto you. Yonatmanam durudhayo bhagavan pratitaha. This Bhagavan, this Lord, personality of Godhead, which we have seen, pratitaha, which we are able to understand. Pratitaha has the sense of being perceived, seen, understood. Bhagavan pratitaha, durudaya, not easy, not easily seen. Durudaya, not easily manifest. Why? Anatmanam, those who are not intelligent, those who are not spiritually trained, to them this form of the Lord, Bhagavan pratitaha, pratitaha also in the sense of recognized, firmly resolved. So there's always confusion whether God has form. What is his form like? But now it is Bhagavan pratitaha. And he is not Bhagavan pratita, he is not pratitaha. Durudayo Bhagavan pratitaha. Yon anatmanam. Those who are anatma. Atma, self, soul, mind, intelligence. Anatma, no intelligence. And that no intelligence will happen. Intelligence to see Bhagavan will not come about unless we are trained in spiritual life. So, the sages are saying, O Lord, Ishaha, we therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto your eternal form. Nama idvidhema, unto your eternal form as the personality of Godhead. Puruhuta Rupam, as the which you have so kindly manifested before us. Pradushchakartha, your supreme eternal form, Puruhuta Rupam, cannot be seen, Durudayaha, by unfortunate, less intelligent persons, Anatmanam. But we are so much satisfied, Nirvritim avapuhu, in our mind and vision to see it. Alam drusho naha. So, very nice, beautiful verse, concluding verse by the sages. They were not ordinary people. They were spiritualists. They were trained. But then they were also fortunate. They had heard from their father and spiritual master, Brahma, certain spiritual instructions, and they had pursued and followed. And now they have Bhagavan pratitaha, we have seen you. And because the Lord has pradushchakartha, he has manifested. This word pradushchakarta, durudaya, udaya, all of this has the sense of manifesting, in the sense it is not something that we can conquer. Lord has to manifest, like Surya Udaya. Like in the night we can't do anything if we want to see the sun. When the sun presents itself in the morning, we can see. This is an important aspect. Krishna reveals. When the Lord is satisfied with our sincerity, with our devotional service, the Lord will reveal. Actually, this is the sense of the word. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. Praptam. Praptam means received. Received means there is somebody who has transmitted. I didn't do it, I didn't get it myself. So the Lord is revealed, the spiritual master reveals. By His mercy, this knowledge is revealed, this understanding is revealed. Pradushchakartha. So, the sages are feeling very, very satisfied. They had never felt this satisfaction. Although they had Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, nirvrithim avapuhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, Krishna bhakta nishkama athayeva shanta. Bhukti mukti siddhikami sarva ashanta. Only a Nishkama Bhakta can be very, very satisfied and peaceful. Someone who is desiring Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi. Bhukti means enjoyment in this material world. Mukti means somebody who is after liberation. And Siddhi means some mystical perfection. The materialists, karmis are after Bhukti. Jnanis are after mukti, and yogis who are doing the different Ashtanga yoga, they are after siddhis. That is why Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches that bhukti mukti siddhi kami sarva shanta Krishna bhakta nishkama athayeva. So that's the state of nirvrithim avapuhu. The sages have come to that stage. But this pradushchakartha, this manifestation, udaya, will not happen if one is anatmanam, if one is not trained in spiritual life. Very early in when Srila Prabhupada had opened his storefront temple in New York, one Professor Thomas J. Hopkins, he was a professor of some Indian studies, and he had learned Sanskrit, and he had done his PhD in Bhagavatam. But a very nice, gentle person. Came and met Srila Prabhupada. And all along, after that, many times, he kept meeting Srila Prabhupada many times. 66, 67, 68, 69. And in 69 also, Prabhupada had a few temples. There was one temple in New York, San Francisco, Montreal, London, Hamburg. At one stage, Prabhupada thought that these 4 or 5 temples, and then I'll go back to India and continue writing books. But then things, Krishna started manifesting. Srila Prabhupada traveled more and more. And Srila Prabhupada also often had visa problems to go to these countries. So at that time, Thomas J. Hopkins offered to Srila Prabhupada. He was from a college, a university, Marshall and Franklin College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. She offered Prabhupada that he can come and stay in the university. They had a program called Author in Residence, because Prabhupada was respected as an author. He's translating Sanskrit texts to English language, writing so many books. So, an offer came to Srila Prabhupada that they will give a house to stay in the campus, and Prabhupada can become an author in residence in the university, and he must give one class every week to the students in the university, and then he can keep writing. But Srila Prabhupada did not accept that offer. So many devotees were already taking to Krishna consciousness in New York, and they were all so much dependent on him. Prabhupada just wanted to travel, and all along Prabhupada did not want to present Krishna consciousness simply as an academic, philosophical subject. It is something by which we learn and transform our heart and become devotees. If we don't practice, if we just have philosophy, that will not help. Yesterday we read that in the Mangalarati reading. We must practice. Anusthana is very important. That is what the sages are saying. Anatmanam durudayo bhagavan pratitaha. Anatmanam, if one is not spiritually trained, if one is not controlling the mind, controlling one's senses, if this practice is not there, rising early, controlling the senses, if all of that is not there, there won't be spiritual development. Actually, in those circumstances, you can imagine, Prabhupada would have got so much respect and honor as a scholar, writer. He could have very peacefully taken that position in a big university campus, very respected. But he went to the hippies, New York, San Francisco, because he wanted to give Krishna consciousness in its true form. Prabhupada wanted this Bhagavan Pratitaha as a genuine spiritual master who is not simply as a scholarship, but want to bring about the real transformation and make us realize Krishna. His form, Puruhuta Rupam. This is his most worshipped form. Not easily seen, not easily understood. That transcendental realization Prabhupada wanted to provide as a genuine representative of Krishna and his spiritual master. He didn't want to make this just an academic affair. He wanted to be with the devotees, train them, teach them, set an example, and help them develop. Not just some kind of a scholarly exercise. There's another example. There was one very early stage, one American devotee. At that time they used to call Srila Prabhupada Swamiji. And Swamiji, they were trying to arrange some speaking opportunities for Swamiji. So this American devotee, he went through some directory and found there was one university in that town. This was a few years later. And he found that there was one professor, because in American university they study religion. They study religion as an academic exercise. So there was one professor who was studying and teaching religion in the religion department. He was teaching Hinduism and he was an expert and his PhD was in Chaitanya philosophy. How this close somebody has come. So this devotee was very excited. Oh. And he thought that he must be, Swamiji talks about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and here there is somebody, professor of Chaitanya philosophy. He must also be almost like Swamiji. So he had so much expectation and he got an appointment and went and met him. And then when they were talking, and then they had a meeting, they say, okay, the professor gave him time, come and meet me. And they were sitting in the cafeteria. And he said, oh yes, I am very much interested. I have been studying Chaitanya philosophy. And what interests me most is Rupa Goswami's rasa theology. Just a minute, one second. And then he took out from his pocket a cigarette, lit it. So now we can talk about rasa theology of Rupa Goswami with a cigarette in their hand. And this devotee is seeing that. He said, oh my God, I thought he'll be somewhere close to Swamiji. But nowhere near that. So this is not some kind of simply an academic, intellectual exercise. So, anatmanam durudayo bhagavan prathitaha. If one has to be spiritually trained, if one has not controlled their senses, not controlled the mind, this realization, durudaya, will never come about. Recently I had some visitors and they were from Indians, they were settled in the US, and then I was talking to them something about Krishna consciousness and I told them about this, that how spiritual life is not just some kind of academic thing. And then I gave the example that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave this example, that just like if you want to learn swimming, suppose you take a book, learn swimming in 30 days. There are some books like that. Learn this, learn that in 30 days. Suppose you read that book and read it 2 times, 3 times, 5 times. Thoroughly you have read it. And I can ask you any question from any chapter of the book. Bang, you can answer. Now after that, you have read that book very well, and I take you to a swimming pool and push you into the swimming pool. You will be able to swim. You know the whole book, read it so well. Come on, now swim. So there is a certain process for learning swimming. It's a simple thing like swimming. So in the same way, there is a process for learning spiritual knowledge and understanding. Krishna talks about this again and again. Jnanam teham savignanam idham vakshyamya sheshataha. There is jnana and there is vijnana. Idam guhyatamam jnana vijnana sahitam yajnatva moksha se ashubhat. Jnana vijnana sahitam. This spiritual knowledge, there is a knowledge and realization, realized knowledge. So there is a certain understanding and that realization coming to the point of experiencing it. Another example Srila Prabhupada gave of realization. It is another very beautiful example. You may read in a book about America. Right? We all have seen pictures, read about America. They are like this, they are like that, and all that. So then you only have jnana, knowledge. One day if you get the passport, visa, money, travel, and then one day when you get to America, you come out of the airport, you breathe American air and you see for yourself, now you are having Vijnana of America. Before you only had Jnana of America. Now you are experiencing America. In the same way, we can be at the level of just reading spiritual knowledge. Krishna has a beautiful form. Krishna has a form. Krishna plays flute. But then if we qualify, if we develop the adhikara, qualifications, then we will have the experience of Krishna, spiritual experience. That is what Srila Prabhupada wanted to impart. So I was telling these visitors about that. Then they talked about, there's one word nowadays, it's been there for some time in English, called Indophile, especially in the Western countries. Indophile means there are some people in the Western countries, for some reason, West, East, everywhere in different parts of the world outside of India, from a very young age, they have some kind of an attraction for India. They are Westerners, could be Europeans, could be Australians, could be some other part of India or the world. But somehow, they have something they have heard about India, Indian dress, Indian food, Indian yoga. They have an attraction for that. You see, they're called, a word has come about in English called Indophiles. Phili means to be attracted, Indo means Indian. So actually, they could be, just like here Krishna explains, when Arjuna asked the question, what happens to a person who is practicing yoga but does not achieve perfection, but he drops and he dies or something. He did not complete his yoga process. What happens? To that question, Krishna answers that whatever progress he has made is never lost. He will be born in Shuchinam Srimatam Gehe. He will be born in an aristocratic family or in the family of Brahmanas. And he can continue his spiritual life in the next life and so on. In that context, Krishna uses one very interesting word. Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate hi avashopi saha. Because of their previous practice, purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate, they become attracted. Avashaha, even though somehow they're not trying, but they're drawn to it. Avasho hriyate, helpless, avashaha, helpless, automatically, in the sense of automatically. By virtue of divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. You see? So, there is a very good possibility, a lot of people have done some spiritual life in their accidentally or somehow, or practicing their own religion, Christianity and others, develop some spiritual sense, but they somehow did not practice it fully. And in their next life, they are still born in some other way. There is some attraction. Purvyabhyesena tenaiva hriyate hi avashaha. They are somehow attracted. There are a lot of people like that, but unfortunately, there are no genuine spiritual masters, and so they get misled. And they are not trained properly. It's very unfortunate. So they don't get the anatmanam, spiritual training. Krishna also says that in the Bhagavad Gita in another place. Bandhuratma atmatmanasthasya enatmaiva atmana jitaha anatmanastu shatrutve varteta atmaiva shatruvat. Anatmanastu shatrutve. In this context, when Krishna is saying mind is the friend, mind is the enemy of the living entity, when the mind is anatmanaha shatrutve, when the mind is not controlled, it becomes an enemy. So, there are many people who are seeking spiritual life, and somehow they take to some studies in universities about Hinduism, but they don't meet a genuine representative, unfortunately, a genuine devotee who will tell them about all this, and they just go on with their Western ways, with some kind of an attraction for Hinduism or Indian and such thing. So this gentleman he told another interesting story of another, someone like a lecturer, professor and his wife. Both of them were very attracted to India. And they were so fascinated, and they were studying Indian philosophy and all that. And then they came to India, and when they were engaged, they wanted to get married in an Indian way. So the man and both the Westerners, both of them came to India. Like this, it happens in some places in our country. And so the wife both of them wanted to get married in a proper traditional way, Hindu way. And but they are not trained, obviously. So the man was dressed up in Indian dress and all that. And the woman was dressed up in a silk sari. And they were very happy, and the priest was there doing the yajna and tying the tali and all of those kind of very traditional way. Marriage happened, and there were some guests from the West, guests from some Indians, friends of them, and they were very happy. And then after the marriage, and everyone next was lunch, right? Everyone was getting ready and going to the lunch. And then this woman, she had her handbag. She opened her handbag. She pulled out a cigarette, and she was lighting it from the Havan Yagna. Fire. You see? So, Indophiles, Indologists, teaching religion, they will teach about sacrifices, fire sacrifices, and all of these kind of things. So, in this way, we will not learn spiritual life. That is not the way. So it's very unfortunate, a lot of people are seeking spiritual life all over the world. Somehow they heard about yogas, all of these things. But there are no genuine representatives of Krishna consciousness. And so they get misled. And we see how Srila Prabhupada was so strict about all these things. And from the beginning, and in an uncompromising way, Prabhupada introduced these things. So, this Puruhuta Rupam Pradushchakartha, this transcendental form, this most glorified form. And in India also, we see so many impersonalists. They think that, ultimate truth is there is no form. And when that Brahman comes in touch with material energy, he takes a form. This kind of understanding they present. And people are misled by that. Just see here, the sages, what they are saying. This is your most glorified form, but that form cannot be seen. Durudayaha is not manifest. Anatmanam, if you are not controlled your senses, controlled your mind, if you have not gone through the spiritual training, you will not have that realization. If you don't get into the water and learn swimming, you will not learn swimming. This is the reality. No one wants to take the trouble of going through all of this, controlling the senses, all of these things, austerities, and they just want to know something superficially, and then they do all of these things. That is why Prabhupada has always taught that this knowledge is to be received. It is not something that you create with your mind, with your intelligence. No, we hear from the spiritual master, hear from the acharyas, hear from the scriptures, and understand this, and practice that, and then it will be revealed in the heart. Praduschakartha, udaya. This is the process of Krishna consciousness, and these sages, they were fortunate and they were seeing that transcendental form, and because of that, nirvritim avapuhu, they are feeling complete satisfaction of the Lord. So we'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.